What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jack Ramsays, Danny Meringue, Brandon the World Ender Sprague. Coming to you live today, Tuesday,
man.
April 19th. It has been a while, mostly because I have been a pile of nothing. My hip has been acting up like crazy. I may have overdid it ever so slightly. I mowed my yard, which for me is 2 miles of mowing.
It's a bit much.
And then after that, I got on the Peloton for 30 minutes, and I may have overcooked the hip a little bit. I could barely walk. Got to the chiropractor, and they adjusted me, and I wanted to die yesterday. But also at the same time, I felt a million times better. I feel way better now being back here with you guys. So we'll go into a ton. We'll spend about an hour. We got the games going on the side here. I'm watching Minnesota-Memphis because I don't care about Atlanta.
Yeah, no. I only care about Trae Young making 4 threes or more, and he's not doing that. So,
yeah, I have no interest in him or the Hawks team. But thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you so much. I know it's been a little while. We told you we were going to take a few days, regardless of me having my situation. But we needed just a little bit of a break. It's been a lot this season, but I'm glad to be back. We will get back onto at least once a week live shows, and I will start pumping out the production quality stuff on the MLE targets, draft picks, interviews. We've got Ricky from SB Nation coming up later this week. It'll be fun. So again, thank you. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. If you're new here, we appreciate you. We love you. I know there's a bunch of people here that are really still irritated and pissed off about the Pelicans pick not conveying and where the Blazers sit right now and all those things. We will go into all of it. I will answer as many questions as I can. We will answer as many questions as we can. I have a ton here on the Twitter thread. So, again, thank you all. We appreciate you. Welcome. So, Bryn, it's been a while, buddy. How you doing?
I was really surprised that we didn't do this yesterday, and I got to my computer roughly around 4:30. I started doing some show prep stuff. I'm like, okay, he'll text me and be like, hey, we good for 6? And I was like, yeah. And nope, I got a text that was like, go tomorrow. I'm going to die. And I was like... Yeah, let's not force a podcast on people when you sound like you're gonna die. Like, yeah. I think that's better for you to relax. It's been a couple days, I'll say, since we did the live watch party. I'm really. It's gonna be interesting discourse.
Yeah,
because I didn't want to tweet Friday during the Pelicans game.
I did.
I know you did. I know. I know because I woke up with even more mentions of how you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I just find the reaction to it very fascinating. So
it's been interesting.
So it's a universal, we all wanted Jerami Grant, huh? Because to me, that pick was going to get Jerami Grant. We didn't get the pick. It was a huge bummer. There's no refuting that.
Yeah.
But, like, the reaction is if that's the game-changing franchise thing that was going to wreck them.
And not the lottery pick that could end up top 3.
And not the and not the lottery pick, but like I don't know. I had thought it was common knowledge that pick was going to be used to trade for Jerami Grant, and I had seen some pushback on Jerami Grant, like, is he really worth it? And that's fine, but like after they made that loss, it was like Cronin's a bum. This is the worst trade of all time.
Fire him.
Fire him. The organization's doomed. And I just thought, wow. So Jerami Grant had 100% approval rating, and I didn't even know it.
No. So I want to roll this back before we push forward into where we're at right now. When all this happened in February, when all the trades were made, what did we say? Process, 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 process. It is about the process. And visuals got to comment in here. Joe Cronin trades to be reevaluated, giving away Larry Nance Jr. for free. You know why they gave away Larry Nance Jr. for free? Because CJ's value wasn't that great, and they needed to get off the money.
I was going to say because nobody wanted CJ enough to just take him by himself.
I'm not here to relitigate. I'm here to frame how things were, in that you're looking for a team that wants CJ McCollum. Okay, there's plenty of teams that wanted CJ McCollum. How many teams had the capacity to give him up? Or, to take him on. How many teams had the assets that the Blazers were looking for, which is minimal salary in return?
Mm-hmm.
and had the opportunity at a lottery pick. Well, you narrowed it down to one team. As much as it was like helping CJ McCollum for his time in Portland, the Blazers weren't just like, yeah, no, ship him to New Orleans because that's where he wants to go.
I mean, if they cared about getting him to a better team, they would have just taken an even worse deal and found somebody who might be slightly better than where New Orleans was at that time.
The goals that they wanted to accomplish were not take back salary, get off bad deals, and reset the books financially. They accomplished those goals. Did they get the pick? No. Did the pick have like a 70-75% chance of conveying when the deal was struck? Yes. Yes, it did.
I think you can make an argument, Danny. I went back and I read some stuff. I wanted to kind of get back into the frame of mind that we had.
In February? Yeah.
In February 8th. That was the day that everybody wrote their pieces. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking at that time, because I've seen a lot of people say this, and I responded to a couple. They never responded back. I said, on February 8th, did you think the Lakers were not making the playoffs and the Pelicans were?
No.
And I think that's the tough thing is everybody's like, well, why didn't you take the Laker pick? And it's like, well, you got to go back to February, first of all, when this happened.
Yeah.
Cronin could have maybe evaluated that a little deeper, and maybe he would have ran with the conclusion that, hey, it's not going to work out. But nobody would have faulted him. I don't think anybody did fault him in the moment for taking that pick, because at that point, the Pelicans were a sinking, rudderless ship who were in desperate
need of
CJ. That trade was to save jobs. Like,
yes.
First of all, let's just
Griff was losing his job if he didn't make something happen.
Absolutely. If they didn't make the playoffs this year, he was losing his gig. He's already maybe lost Zion. We'll see where that goes. Yeah. So it's just like, go back to February 8th and ask yourself, was the New Orleans pick worse than the Laker pick? In the sense of that it was convey, I would say it's maybe 80 or a higher percentage that pick was going to convey. It took COVID to stop that pick from conveying. COVID. Yeah. Not CJ being hot from the field. He played like absolute crap against the Clippers.
In the last, let's go. I want to stop you there. In the last 12 quarters of basketball, CJ has played 2 good quarters of basketball.
He's been awful.
He's been awful the next 10.
And look, I'm not going to name names. I will not name names. I just say on my timeline, I had to see and read about how CJ McCollum was the worst trade the Blazers have made. Yeah. How he's an All-NBA All-Star guy because he beat the 14-game below 500 San Antonio Spurs. And absolutely did nothing against a Clipper team that were without Paul George and Luke Kennard, and he was an absolute no-show in their first game one. So I haven't seen any of the tweets about how he's an All-NBA guy right now.
It's weird. Over the last 10 quarters of basketball, I haven't heard anything about CJ McCollum going 2 for 11 in the second half against the Spurs. But again, this isn't to like relitigate the trades. And the reason I'm saying all this is because here's the frame, the process. You don't get to tank without getting rid of everybody and bringing nobody back. That's the thing. You don't get a chance at a top 4 pick by bringing back other players. They wanted to clear all of the salary commitments so that they could pay Damian Lillard's extension, pay Anthony Simons his new deal, extend Yusuf Nurkic, and have the ability to get players that match what Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups want to build here, which is hilarious because I found for so many years, and early on in the Chauncey stuff was he doesn't have his players. He needs to get his players. This is how you get that way. You don't trade those guys for other veteran-type players that come back that are kind of moving the pieces around on the Titanic. You're rearranging deck chairs, which is what Neil O'Shea did for 7 years. That's not what they want. They wanted to clear the deck and save except for Damon Ant. Because even at that time, we'll talk about it a little bit later, there were teams circling around Yusuf Nurkic around the trade deadline. I know of 3 teams that were looking at Yusuf Nurkic at the trade deadline. Like the Blazers weren't fully committed to the big fella quite yet. So how do you do that? You do all of this to clear the table, to have the opportunity, and the Pelicans pick was like, okay, that's a nice little sweetener. That's what it was. Because there was nobody out there who wanted CJ McCollum who was willing or able to give no money back. And the cost of that was Larry Nance Jr. Mm-hmm. It sucks when it all comes back in your face and blows up, but the process is the process. They wanted to get an opportunity at a franchise-altering lottery pick. The Pelicans pick was not that. It's their own. That's when the decision was made. Like, we are going to go sideways. Mm-hmm. And this isn't C.J. McCollum at 25 years old, 26 years old, 27 years old, 28 years old, 29. This is C.J. McCollum at 30 years old going into a $36 million season and a $39 million season after that. There's no deal out there that makes the Blazers better for C.J. McCollum. That's it. The toxic asset of Ben Simmons was the best possible outcome for them. And even that went sideways.
Well, yeah, I mean, go back and look again to when he got traded. Please pinpoint the team that was offering anything for C.J. McCollum.
You need a team that is not the best team, because the best team they're capped out. They don't have the financial wherewithal to make it happen. You need a middling team that wants to go from middling or below middling to average, which is what the Blazers were.
Yeah.
And that narrows the field to 4 teams. And of those 4 or 5 teams, how many have the money available? How many have the assets necessary or the financial capacity to take on C.J. McCollum and create those opportunities?
Right.
And the thing is, Andrew Bear says, why does everyone just dismiss the Bucks pick like it doesn't exist? Because it's easy to do. It's still a tangible asset.
Because it's 2025.
Yeah,
we're looking to
because that kid's 16 years old right now. That's why.
Well, sure, yeah, but it's also an asset that many people don't think is going to be valuable or is valuable right now, which is interesting in itself. Because while I think Giannis has a lot of Dame in him, who's to say in 2 years he doesn't win another championship and then say, I want to move to, I'm out. I did everything. I want to see what it's like somewhere else. Like, this league is too unpredictable for anybody to fully think that somebody is 100% committed from 3 years now.
And that's the thing. So it's an interesting position to be in. When all these moves were made, what was the one thing I kept saying, Brandon? And even you, I had to tell you, we evaluate all this in August.
Yeah.
In August. And I've had people say, you just love Joe Cronin because he's not Neil Olshey. No. I have said from day one, you put somebody in there who's willing to take a risk and willing to try things, willing to strip things down and swing for the fences. Sometimes you will miss. That's how this goes. But this isn't bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, nobody on. They've still got the TPE. They still have their lottery pick. They have multiple TPEs. They have cap space. They have the MLE. They have opportunities out there in front of them. And when you get to August, if they look like hell, then I'll be mad.
Sure.
But until then, I'm not going to lose my collective mind.
Which is what everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people chose to do after that Pelicans. Yeah, no doubt.
And it's just like,
no doubt. I also, I think there's an element of Danny talking about this, the trade and the lost pick. And I think there's an element of, you're just what you said. You're just shilling for Joe Cronin. First of all, I'm not paid by Joe Cronin. I'm not paid by the Blazers. Like, if I think it's a good idea or I'm okay with it, I'll let you know. If I don't, I'll let you know. Like, I don't really care that much, but I'll let you know how I feel about it. And what I would say is I just find the whole thing fascinating because to me, a lot of that anger on Friday was obviously had a lot to do with that pick. You wanted that pick that was going to convey and become Jerami Grant. I think we all know that. But I think a lot of the anger and the response that you saw of, well, now you have no assets. You have no flexibility. Okay, first of all, let me ask you this.
The Blazers team that was bereft of assets 6 months ago?
Are they going to be a title contending roster by next year? No. I think everybody would say no, right? Like right now, unless some crazy ass thing happens, everybody would probably say, well, no. Okay, so let's take a chill pill for a second. So next year, you're not competing. Can you make the playoffs? I believe Dame healthy this year with Ant playing, Nurk playing, and even with that middling roster is at least in the play-in tournament.
They're better than the Pelicans.
I don't disagree with that at all. Okay, so there you go. There's the hindsight. Like, you're going to be right back to where you were as borderline first-round team, which is what we saw quite a bit. The second part is maybe the most important part. It felt like a lot of misplaced anger. Not that you weren't frustrated that Larry Nance went away for nothing. Not that you didn't get the pick. And not that you don't think Joe Cronin made the greatest trade of all time. It's clearly not the greatest trade of all time. Nobody is saying that. But I think a lot of that anger has been built up for 4 years. And what you saw is you saw one outlier year of, oh, my God, West Finals is awesome, and a lot of heartbreak, disappointment, agony, and stubbornness. And I think the fan base lashed out on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday and showed you that it was actually a deeper wound than they thought. You're not that upset at Joe Cronin. You're more upset by the fact that this team got to the point where somebody else had to come in here and say, this garbage pile is massive. You need to take it out. It needs to be thrown away.
This is an episode of Hoarders.
Yes, you opened the door and there's a pile of trash and 5 dead kittens under a bed. And you're upset, like, Joe's moving dead kitten bodies. And
yeah, exactly. Instead of saying he's cleaning shit up, you're focusing on the fact that he's carrying 5 dead cats out of the room.
I also, like, not for everybody here. I don't want to sound like I'm preachy. I know I sound like that sometimes. I don't mean to. This is not directed at everybody. There is a certain percentage of people, though. You just way overvalue every asset that plays in a Trailblazer uniform for 3 years or more. I mean, it does not matter who they are.
And the thing is, CJ McCollum was a good player. I'll say it. I argued with Dwight on Friday, I think it was. Dwight James and I was arguing with him over the value of CJ McCollum. CJ's a good player. He's barely a top 50 player. And that's not nothing. But when you're talking about a franchise pillar, your franchise pillar can't be top 50. It can't.
No.
That's not a thing. That's not a franchise pillar. That's a really good role player. And getting out of that and getting out of that mindset in the framing of Neil Olshey for 9 years, selling you what franchise pillars are and were to what they are now, which is, listen, our franchise pillar is Dame. We think Anthony Simons can be one of those guys. We don't know yet. But
they're going to pay him like he better damn well be, because they're going to pay him.
They're going to pay him, but they're not going to pay him $36 million.
Well, no, not yet.
And that's the thing is, you're looking, and for people, I've had people say that I'm not consistent. If nothing else, I'm very consistent.
You're stubbornly consistent.
Yes, in the sense of, in 2017, when I said if they're going to move up and draft somebody, draft Donovan Mitchell, because if Donovan Mitchell turns into 75% of C.J. McCollum on a rookie scale deal, that puts you in a position to trade C.J. McCollum and get something of value back, to adjust things to where the roster makes more sense. Anthony Simons at $20 million is making 2/3 of what C.J. McCollum was and will be on par with his production.
Right.
And he's going to be 8 years younger. And you're going to have $16 million difference, a whole ass starter in the NBA difference. And there's the likelihood that Anthony Simons outperforms his contract is significant. C.J. McCollum never outperformed his contract after his rookie deal. Never. That kind of adjustment, everybody, they want to talk about the idea of it coming back, and it's just, it's very, very different because you don't get tangible stuff because we're so used to 1-for-1 or 1-for-2 transactions. The tangible stuff coming back is actually nothing. That's a real thing, and I know that is a difficult thing to grab. And I'm not saying I'm all worldly for understanding that. It's a stupid thing to kind of take in, because if that nothing doesn't convey into something else, then you are screwed.
Right.
That is the thing. That's why I keep getting back to August. And now, the question I keep getting asked over and over again, and number one, I keep seeing a bunch of people in comments saying, is this optimistic, Danny? No, this isn't optimistic, Danny. This is just the process. Had Neil Olshey done this 5 years ago, I would have endorsed it. You could go back and listen to one of the literal thousands of podcasts that I did about this.
The problem, Danny, not to interrupt you, but like the problem with saying that is like you actually would have had better value in return for CJ McCollum. You would have had an actual all-star type player in a Jimmy Butler, in a Paul George, Hell, maybe a Kawhi Leonard. We don't know who would have taken what, but we know that you didn't try. They didn't try to do that until James Harden. And James Harden was like, well, I can go play with my guy KD and go play with Kyrie in Brooklyn, or I can go to Portland, or I can leak to Chris Haynes that Portland's in my top 5 just to do a wink and a nod, get the deal done, send me to Brooklyn, please. I think that's the frustrating part is if you evaluate this trade 4 years ago, your asset in return is actually substantial and something to write home about. Whereas this one was like, we were live watching a play-in tournament game, hoping that we have a top 14 draft pick and hopes that you get a non-all-star player in Jerami Grant. And I just find the whole thing bizarre. This, like, you didn't get return for CJ. Please direct me, all powerful being, and tell me what the return for CJ should be when his contract's going to get to 36 and he's never even sniffed an all-star game. Yeah. Please tell me. Should it have been another all-star player at this point? No. You know why? Because Portland, by the time they actually had to make that trade, lost all their leverage. That was as good
as you were going to get. They had zero leverage on, and not even just the CJ trade. All the trades they made. Everybody knew what was happening.
Sure, they knew it was blowing it up. But even coming into the year itself with Neil at the helm, you instantly lost your leverage.
Yes.
Because everybody knew, well, that ship ain't going nowhere. Yeah. We know what it is if it does hit. And if it doesn't, they're going to have to trade that dude. And we're not giving them quite what they thought thought that we would.
Crypto says, we really don't have that much cap space left after re-signing Ant and Nurk. Can only use one of our trade exceptions, 1 draft pick. Here's the thing. The order of operations matters. And I've said this over and over and over again. The Blazers have enough cap space to make two big transactions and then re-signing Ant and Nurk because you have RFA rights and you have bird rights. Mm-hmm. So you can go over the cap. As much as I have belabored ownership, from what I have been told, Jody and the ownership group are okay with spending money into the luxury tax going into this next year.
I'm not gonna hold my breath on that, and that's not a shot at you. That's more a shot at, like, I feel like I have heard that every single season that this team will spend.
They did pay though. They did pay previous to last year.
Yeah, I know, but I heard that at the beginning of this year that this ownership group would pay the luxury.
Well, we knew was full of shit when they said that to start the season because there was no way they were going to do that with that roster.
I know.
But I do buy that they are willing to spend on this franchise because I went on with AJ and Dusty earlier yesterday, and the thing that I said is post-COVID, what are NBA owners wanting right now? Butts and seats.
Yeah, they want to make the money back.
How do you do that? You spend the money.
Yep.
You spend the money and you make the money. That's how you do it. And I think that's something that's going to happen. I think they're going to invest in the team, and I think they're going to be looking that way for the next 3 years. And I don't buy into or any of the stuff about they're stripping it down so they can sell it because it just doesn't matter. It does that the assets on the roster don't matter for the team sale. That's not a thing that really you worry about all that much in the grand scheme of billions of dollars. Spencer says, nobody that I've seen is saying that we should have had an all-star player, just better protections on the pick.
Oh, I've seen at least 7 people that have tweeted or texted into my radio show telling me that, and I'm just like, I'm baffled. I'm like, what? What? Excuse me?
The protections were the protections. There's not a whole lot further you could go because and here's the other thing about this. Joe Cronin got creative to get that pick because that pick was lottery protected for the Hornets. Mm-hmm. So Joe is like, this is the way that I can get that pick this year is if it fits in this window. And the likelihood of it fitting in that window is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Up until the final minutes of that game against the Clippers, it was still looking really good to convey.
It would have conveyed if Paul George doesn't get COVID. I'm sorry.
It would have conveyed if Luke Kennard isn't out.
Probably, yeah. I mean, anybody coming off the bench.
They had no legs. They were
bench.
Done.
Reggie Jackson was
Reggie and Nick
front
were
rim
cooked.
And everything. Front rim and everything.
Norm front rim to free throw. They were all cooked.
Yeah, they were all cooked, yeah. I've seen a lot of that too of like, well, he's a lousy negotiator because, yeah, he got the draft pick in there, but how do you not get better protections? And
to get a pick this year, that was it. You were not going to get an unprotected lottery pick.
The element of, well, Sprague, you're stupid for trusting an interim dude that you don't know much about. While that might be a fair thing to say, What I would also respond with is, were you in the room and on the phone call? Because I'd imagine if Joe Cronin could have got a better deal, he would have taken the better deal. Why else would you why would you tank and bypass better deals? That doesn't make any sense to me.
And that's the thing is, that's the frustration. And I am not telling people to not be mad about losing that pick. Go back and read my timeline that night. I said something along the lines of pain. So much pain. Yeah. Because it does hurt. It does suck. It does set them back. Let me be clear. I am not saying that everything is sunshine, roses, and rainbows. What I said then and what I will say now is this. It hurts, but they are not. Again, I'll use the baseball analogy. It is not bottom of the ninth. You know, they 2 strikes, they swung and they're out. They're like 7th inning. Down by 1, down by 2, okay? Like
it's time to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Yeah, like it's getting close. Here's the thing: if it goes sideways at the lottery, that's when it's a problem.
Sure, yeah. If that pick falls and you're like 8th, you're 9th, you're like, oh shit.
Then you're sitting there chewing the nails down to the blood.
You better trade the pick.
In which, thank you. That's a hell of a transition, sir. Do I think the Portland Trailblazers will trade their own lottery pick for Jerami Grant? No. Let me go ahead and squash that now. No. You
better not trade that pick for Jerami Grant is what I would say.
Yes.
That's an awful decision.
It's okay. You hope that pick lands top 4.
Mm-hmm.
You hope that's what you hope. And here's what you hope. You hope it lands top 4, and you hope they draft the right guy, and they get a very playable young player day 1. I'm not talking about star day 1 because rookie stars don't happen. Evan Mobley was one of the best rookies I've seen on both sides of the floor in 15 years.
Yep.
And he was not a star. Very good. Very good. Not a star. Luka Doncic was a star his rookie year. And he made a truckload of mistakes.
Yes, he did.
They don't come across all that often. But if you can get an impact player making controlled $6 million, $7 million, $8 million a year, that is massive. Mm-hmm. That is a massive win. Here's what you hope for. You hope that happens, and then you take everything else, and you hope a team goes sideways and that they want to reset and get off a deal. Whether that's Jerami Grant, whether that's Jonathan Isaac, or whether somewhere in Toronto, as somebody has noticed already in the background, Mr. OG Anunoby, sitting back there, is the one who gets squeezed out in Toronto at $17 million a year.
A 6'7", 24-year-old, I'll take that all day.
Who's a complete wrecking ball and probably one of the 5 to 7 guys in the NBA that Chauncey Billups was talking about as a defender.
Shoots 36% from 3. Yeah, it sounds really tasty to me.
Has some people, before this gets clipped or anything stupid along those lines, I am not saying this, but has compared him onto a same kind of trajectory as Kawhi Leonard, where it was like this guy just keeps adding shit to his game. He's getting better and better and better, and it's like a guy that couldn't dribble can dribble now. The guy that couldn't shoot can shoot now. A guy that couldn't pass can pass now. And it's like, yeah, this dude's doing a lot. Those are the things. And Evan James says Rudy G. What happens in Utah? Like, does Utah just fire sale stuff and they're like, we need to get off some money and Bojan Bogdanovic is sent into a TP. I'm not a Bojan guy, but again, like whatever
I would take him all day.
But again, whatever your flavor is, right?
Yes.
So there's still so much that can happen. And I've talked to a few people and they've said, what along the lines of what would you give up? Like, what do you want for OG Anunoby? Like the Bucks first round pick? Yeah. Keon? Yeah. Any of the kids? Yeah. Like,
would you give a top 5 pick?
5's the cutoff.
Let's say
the Blazers
can't.
The pick can't fall at 5. It can fall 1 through 4 or 6 through 9.
Okay, let's say it falls at 6.
Would I give that pick for OG Anunoby? Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Why? Why? Because he's an absolute stud and he's 24 years old.
He also fits the prototype that the previous dude failed to really address. And
the one player they could not get.
And the current dude has made it abundantly clear in multiple interviews. His aim is to do what, Danny? It's to go get 6'7", 6'8" athletic wings that can play multiple positions and defend multiple positions.
Be switchable.
I said this today, and I don't mean in terms of it's going to happen next year. I think you're pie in the sky if you're looking from the optimistic viewpoint. Because I had Justin Termini on today, and he gave me the not so pie in the sky look of things.
No way, Justin did that? Shocking.
Well, he's a big Dame guy, but yeah, he doesn't really. He basically said he doesn't see it with this team. He's not sure about if Anthony Simons will continue to be as good as he is. And I asked him, best case scenario, who in the playoffs is Portland going to be next year? And he basically said, well, none. And then he goes, well, at best, Denver. You've got one great player and you got a bunch of role guys who don't do much. And I thought that's deflating. I chose to go a different direction. With Joe Cronin's actual viewpoint shared in some interviews, I know the makeup's a little different. I think he is aiming for a Dallas, a Toronto. A lot of really good role guys.
Higher-end role guys.
Higher-end role guys who are athletic, switchable, don't get as much love as the star guy gets.
Like Jalen Brunson going for a 40-piece.
Right. Or, hell, I would even, like Finney Smith. Like, nobody talks about that dude. He's a good player.
There's not a team in the league that doesn't want Dorian Finney-Smith on their roster.
Right. And I think an OG could fit some of the void there,
He's
right?
the super high end of that.
So I think that's kind of just with what you're saying. I don't know if it'll happen, but like just with what you're saying, it fits every criteria of what a Joe Cronin is looking to do, I think, with this roster.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't think it's not necessarily like a Toronto or Dallas thing. I think you're right in a sense, but I think that's the NBA entirely right now. You and I have talked about this a ton over the last couple of years. The whole idea of like what the Warriorification of the KD, Clay, Dre, Steph team did to the NBA. Like that was the only way to win. No, that was the only way to win in that 4-year period. It's to have two really good players and then a really good roster. The Suns are a perfect example of that. And because Chris Paul's aging out, they're going to have to make some decisions here very quickly. The Memphis Grizzlies have a ton of really good players. After Ja, who is the second best player on that team?
I think they want it to be Jaren Jackson Jr., but I think right now, is it Bane? I don't know.
I would go Jaren because of his defensive versatility. Like
I would too, but he has some real letdown games.
The fouls and his shooting inefficiencies come back to bite him. But yes. I would say because he's 7 foot tall and his size, he is the guy. But Bane's right there. Brooks is right there. They've got a ton of role players. They get something out of what is his name? Well, obviously Clark, but I was going to say the kid from Gonzaga.
Well, Clark is Gonzaga.
No, I know that, but Tilly.
Yeah.
Like
Tilly.
all of a sudden he's doing something. Zaire Williams is doing stuff.
Right.
Like Slow-Mo does stuff. Like Steven Adams, everyone's like, oh, he's washed. Like, no, he's not. He's actually pretty solid. Like it's just like another, but it's not 3 Hall of Famers. It's it's one Hall of Famer in Ja, and then a bunch of really good dudes. And I think that's just you look around the league, and that's just the way it happens now. And there's talent has been so spread out over the last 4 or 5 years that you're getting more of that. Like it's sure you can still point to super teams, but you can also point to super teams that have blown up. You can look at the Sixers, look at the Lakers.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the Nets are kind of, but not quite.
I think it's interesting, the super team thing. Not that super teams are going to cease to exist. I just find this playoff is an interesting combination of organically built and super teams.
Yeah.
And that line, by the way, can be kind of skewed. Like some people don't view the Milwaukee Bucks as a super team, and I totally get it. Middleton and Holiday maybe don't put that fear in you the way other superstar players do when they join a guy like Giannis. But you could say it's a super team. You could say it's not. But either way, like, it's a big combination right now. And I think the idea that you're ever going to have a super team, like until you get lucky in the draft with guys staying healthy, Roy, Aldridge, Oden, that's just not in your cards. You have to make teams. You have to construct it this way in this city. This is just what it is. And the other thing I would say too is the patience. I jokingly said this the last, I don't know, what would you say, 20 games, where I said, Portland's not built for this. This fan base, this city, they're not built for this. They're not built for this bad basketball. Like we saw this, right? Like to me, it wasn't just they were getting in trouble. It was the team sucked. And the fans
more than anything, the team being
product.
a dumpster fire was like, yeah, no, they suck a lot, and everything else that's going on around this is not great.
And they came back when we got some young, promising talent, and it showed us the right way. This city does not jive with a, hey, we're going to be awful on purpose mentality. It's not built for that. And we saw people saying things like, well, are they at least going to try in one of these games? Like, you don't want them to try in one of these games. So what I would say is there needs to be more patience. Like the other part of this too is like that pick, losing that pick sucked. I'm not refuting that, but it's like the idea that you were going to take this ginormous step by next year, I think is a little bit of a fool's gold. I think they can be a playoff team. I don't know what that's saying, if much, but this is a 2 to 3 year situation. If Dame's hanging around, we're talking about what they are with a 35-year-old Damian Lillard. If we're talking about them being maybe at some point in contention in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think that the team building behind this is that, I have to go back to that point, but like August. And even then, and they're not going to be done then, Brandon.
No.
We talked about this when Neil O'Shea got fired. Before they traded CJ, before they traded Covington, that this process of stripping this down and building this back up was not going to be something that you were not going to undo 5 years of mismanagement in one off season. And that's not to, well, Joe's my favorite. No, nobody. It doesn't matter if you're Masai. You are not unfucking this roster in one off season. That's not happening.
I mean, Masai had to do it in Toronto.
And it took multiple years.
And he got it right back to where, yeah, they're not going to beat Philadelphia, but damn, don't you envy that roster? They're young, they're athletic,
they're in
fast,
a good position. But here's the thing. They're still as good as all the good vibes that come out of Toronto. I've heard from more than a few people that somebody's probably going to be the odd man out.
Well, it's natural. It has to happen that way. Not everybody's going to get that paycheck.
And they still need a big. As fun as they are, and all that regular season stuff is I am not a playoffs or bust guy, title or nothing. I value the regular season, but you have to have a roster that competes.
Right.
And they don't have a big. In the regular season, 82 games, you can get away with that. 16 games, you can't. You can't. Not in today's NBA. You can't. It gets too slow. It gets too physical. It gets too big. I'm going to derail this real quick because I have to ask you, because I think you've been. Disneyland or Disney World, which is better?
I've never been to Disney World.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to say land every time. Plus, I'd rather go to L.A.
See, it's perfect.
Plus, you got California Adventure right across the street. I know Disney World's massive, and it's got the Epcot Center and all that stuff. Never been. Maybe it's awesome.
It's cool. It's good. It's not even just cool. It's good. Disneyland is the OG. It is.
Yeah, there's an element of when you walk in there, you go, everything was created here. Like this dude started it all right here.
And I bring this up.
Where the hell did that question come from?
Anthony's arguing with me on Twitter right now.
You're arguing about Disneyland and Disney World with Anthony Simons while we're doing a podcast.
He was Bree had asked which is better, Disneyland or World earlier, and I said land by a lot.
Can you tell him then? Can you say Disneyland and please take a $20.5 million a year salary? That would do us a lot of favors. We love you. Thank you. Have fun.
Listen, I think Ant's gonna get it right around there. So
no, I look, if he gets a little more, I think that's fine. And I think if you were somebody that was on the side that we're telling you not to be on, or the side that we're saying we're not on, I think you listen to this podcast, you think, oh, those are absolute honks who just think everything's going to be sunshine and rainbows. And I just
which is further from the truth than humanly possible.
Well, somebody told me my world is ending takes rubbed them the wrong
way.
Which
was wild because only thing you ever said was like, I'm checked out on this season, which I think.
So was Joe Cronin, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see the doom and gloom yet. I see some missed opportunity. I see being forced into some bad situations and bad hands. I'm frustrated with the organization because they will not rip either the interim tag off or just go make a damn hire. I think that's incredibly frustrating. I made that known the day this dude got that gig, and they said interim general manager. I said, are we all cool with a guy who may or may not be here being in charge of maybe the most important time in this franchise's history? I made that point 4 different times on 4 different podcasts. I know where I stand. But I also know they're getting a healthy Damian Lillard back. And I know what that means. That means it's a 25 or more point per game dude who's going to give you probably 7 assists paired with a 22-year-old 20-point per game scoring threat. And you'll have some more athletic versatility. That's what I know. And
they're a playoff team.
Like you're a playoff team next year. You should be. Barring injury, you are a playoff team.
And did you see that video I retweeted earlier?
No.
The bar graph.
Oh, yeah, I did, about what they've been since like 2003, the win increases.
The playoff wins.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that necessarily to entirely dunk on Neil, although that came along with it because, yeah, that's what happens. But this whole idea of this, I get so tired of somebody framing success as the playoffs.
Oh, it's such a cop-out, lazy argument.
It's half the league
makes the playoffs. Like, I did see the end of your tweet, and I think it's valid to say, like, congratulations, you weren't the Sacramento Kings. And I said somebody say, like, you act like we didn't have fun. No, I know there was some great moments in there, some great moments.
Yes.
But you also didn't come close.
You're in the bottom third. You were in the
sniffing.
bottom third of successful franchises over the last 20 years.
My thing is, there's this like defense of, well, I'm not doing it to dunk on Neil. I will. Like, he got Damian Lillard handed to him. And what did he do with it?
Damian Lillard is a playoff appearance waiting to happen.
Yes, it's why it's bothered me that CJ's getting all this playoff streak credit right now. I'm like, oh, we're doing that?
Yeah, that's been
We're
fun.
going to do that? Like, this is where I will. It's not to say Joe is better than Neil. We don't know that. I don't know that. What I do know is Joe was willing to do the one thing Neil straight up wouldn't. And how do I know that? Because CJ told Jason Quick the night Neil got fired, I'm probably done here. Even he knew that Neil O'Shea being the general manager meant he was never being traded from here. And Danny, please point me in the direction.
Are you kidding me? He had a safety net around him. He knew that as long as Neil was in charge, he was never going anywhere. Ever.
Please point me in the direction of a general manager that gets a decade in a city without ever having like real contention. Please point me to that guy.
Nowhere.
Okay. So that dude got to coast on a job that probably should have lost after they lost to the Pelicans, and yet they didn't. And here we are. We're eating the crap sandwich that was handed to Joe Cronin.
And again, that's the kind of thing as well undone. I want to answer some of these questions that we got in there. This is from Keely at Lufgren 360. Is Cam Johnson a more realistic trade this offseason now that we lost the Pelicans pick? Cam Johnson is a guy I have heard his name thrown around more than a few times around, around the Blazers.
Give me Cam Johnson all effing day.
Cam Johnson is, from what I have heard, the Suns are now more likely to re-sign Ayton. And
I would hope that they would be.
there will be a squeeze there because Chris Paul's making $40 million. Booker's on his max, and Ayton will be on his max.
And Bridges just got signed this summer.
And Bridges got a $590, which, by God, shout out to the ownership group in Phoenix for screwing Mikal Bridges out of money. Because Jesus.
Well, hold on. First of all, he accepted the contract, so maybe
I think he's just the kind of. I think he's just the kind of guy who's like, that's life-changing money, man. I don't
exactly, and that's how I would view things too. Let me just say though, can we comp for a minute? Given we watched 2 Clipper games, the difference between a 590 and a 590.
Yeah. Which
Norm Powell?
Yeah, Norm Powell at 590 or Mikal Bridges at 590. Which one's better, folks?
It's not even
the guy who the guy who should have been Defensive Player of the Year if you're going to go for a non-big. But I got to say this real quick. Marcus Smart getting Defensive Player of the Year. Marcus Smart's a very good defender. He's not the best defender in his own fucking team.
Well, it's a Lifetime Achievement Award, first of all.
Still,
I know.
Irritated the shit out of me.
I thought Bridges was a better defender than he was.
Yes, he if you're going to go non-big, it's Bridges.
Yeah,
by a substantial margin. I didn't have Smart in my top 5.
Vegas didn't have Smart in his top 5 until Robert Williams got hurt. You know that? He was plus 4,000 before Time Lord got hurt.
Yeah. The Celtics did a PR campaign push and got it. That's what happened.
Yep.
The Boston PR machine. Shout out ESPN being in Connecticut. Otherwise, explain this to me. Because everybody I've talked to who has half of a brain is like, Smart? Okay. Sure.
Well, that's what I want to know is I want to see the votes because I've heard a lot of NBA guys, a lot. People with votes, and they're like, what?
So yeah, I want to see that because he got a lot of first place votes. So I want to see who voted in first place.
Yeah.
I definitely want to see that. But I got to derail this for a second.
No, that's fine. We just got this tweet from Larry. I know we're doing kind of some question stuff.
Yeah.
And Larry says, it seems fair to at least question why Cronin wouldn't negotiate for the better of the Pels Lakers, even if both were top 4 protected. After getting so little for NP and Rocco, not getting the pick hurts even more as a fan.
Again, they didn't want to take back salary. So you're not – and if you're going to find a team who has the willingness to take on Rocco's salary and Norm's salary and not send you a bunch back, who's on that list? How many competitive teams out there have the ability to do that? Mm-hmm. The list got very small very quickly. And the Clippers, how many draft picks do they have after trading for Paul George?
None. They traded like 7 first-round draft picks for that dude.
So they did what they could. They scraped together, and they basically called Keon Johnson a first-round pick.
The NP Rocco thing, I'm not going to act like I'm some super insider or anything, so take this for what it's worth. I've seen no indication that you were going to get something massive haul for either of those players. That Norm Powell contract, I don't think it's an albatross, but I don't think teams view it very friendly. 5 for 90. And Rocco is a little past his
Teams wanted
prime.
a pick attached to Covington going out.
So I just think the tough part with that is I think this kind of goes to our larger point to answer Larry's question. The negotiating of protections for picks between the Lakers and Pell's pick, I can't get into that because Joe hasn't talked about it. But what I will say on the Norm Powell, Rocco, CJ part is at the end of the day, why it didn't drive me nuts on Friday, I was like, damn it, that sucks. You saw me. I was pissed when that game ended. Why it didn't completely wreck me is because I knew at the end of the day we were dealing negative assets. And I knew this because Kevin Pelton, who is so much smarter about the game of basketball than I ever will be, told me after CJ got traded, he was surprised that they got what they got because CJ has negative trade value. So that's why I didn't choose to go completely nuclear the minute they lost that pick.
So, and I think you started the show off by framing this whole idea of what we were told over years. And I think because people have been sold and told so much, it's almost like a Pavlovian effect of the Blazers have franchise pillars and he's actually the best backcourt and it's actually CJ McCollum is this. And so people expect this gargantuan return, which it was at the same time served Neil Olshey's purpose of not trading CJ McCollum. Because if he didn't get a monster haul back after setting the bar up here, then, I couldn't justify trading him. Did you see what they offered? Yeah, because everybody else knew what CJ McCollum was. Mm-hmm. And that's why you end up where you are in the returns. If you're frustrated that they didn't get the perfect return, fine. Well, that's neither here nor there. It's Crypto, so you can't say we want one of your first round picks no matter what in the CJ trade. I don't think that anybody was valuing where the Lakers pick was going to be. That's the issue.
But I think what people are saying, Danny, is why didn't you have the wherewithal to evaluate that further?
We don't know if they did. And they just said no.
I think that's the tough part is we don't know that. Very well could have not brought it up whatsoever, and we go, whoa, Joe, not even thinking about it. Or he was like, hey, what about that Laker? Can we bring that into this deal in some way? And they said, you want to stake $36 million a year for CJ McCollum and add that? No.
Yeah, and that's I think what ultimately where it came down to. Meth Band says, was that Drew Holiday for CJ offer about 3 years ago legit? Yes, but it was CJ McCollum and 3 first-round picks for Drew Holiday.
Which is what Milwaukee paid, and Milwaukee would tell you it was worth it because they just won a title. So.
Yes. But they also had Middleton, who.
Oh, and I know I'm not saying they would have won a title with
I know.
Drew
I'm
and
just
Dame. I'm
yeah.
just yeah.
It's. But if you're talking about like value, they basically treated CJ McCollum was who was traded in it? Was it Bledsoe that was traded in that deal?
Bledsoe.
Because Bledsoe was traded to New Orleans in that deal.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
So yeah,
because he was the point guard.
So
the year
basically,
before.
they valued CJ McCollum as Eric Bledsoe. So if you want to have an understanding of where CJ McCollum was viewed around the league, there you go. That's why you did get more back.
Yeah.
So back to the Cam Johnson thing. Is Cam Johnson a viable guy? Yes, because I believe Phoenix is probably going to have to move off of both him and Crowder. They're just not going to have the money to keep either of those guys. And Cam's going to get paid. And Portland has the ability to pay somebody. And they could take Cam off their hands for a young asset. And then they can pay him. And Cam's a guy I would love to have on this team. At Mean Dean Okerlund, at DeBrazen.
That is a great handle.
You like that?
Mean Dean Okerlund. I love that.
What free agents the Blazers most realistically have a shot at this summer? The guys that I'm honing in on, I'll break it down as we get closer and closer, and I know where the draft picks are sitting at. The guys that I am looking at right now is on the restricted side is Mo Bamba. I think that's a big that they're going to target. But I think one of the wings that they're definitely going to have to take a look at is T.J. Warren. The other one's Kyle Anderson.
Slow-mo?
A little slow-mo action.
Slow-mo, worst version of Nick Batum. I'm not upset by it.
Listen, if you get him for half an MLE, it's not a bad deal.
What is Nick's contract situation with the Clips, by the way? Is it a one? It's
he's unrestricted this offseason. Listen, Nick's on the radar.
Would you be? I wouldn't be mad at the return.
I would not. But listen,
he's like what 33? Isn't he only 33? 32?
Here's the thing: Nick and Dame are very tight. Nick is one of Dame's favorite teammates of all time.
I might cry when he comes back and he comes out of that tunnel and Mark Mason says his name.
Listen, Eric, who won the autographed Nick Batum jersey, is going to all of a sudden have a very nice number 88 back on the wall again for an active Nick Batum in Portland next year. But the idea of Nick Batum coming back to Portland, I know they made an offer last year, but I also know that the former operator of this franchise was not a fan of Nick.
Well, that's fine. He was wrong. I thought it was funny. It might have been Kev. Somebody tweeted, I think, during the game. They're like, the Blazers, or maybe it was you. I can't remember who tweeted, but somebody said something to the effect of like, since the Blazers got rid of Nick Batum, they've been looking for Nick Batum.
Yes.
I know he had some bad years in Charlotte.
He was banged up and mentally he was not in a great place. But,
no, but and you wish him well because he got that contract. But like now,
he is like the new Rudy Gay, where like he just hops around from team to team to team, like he just fits. Thad Young, I think, is another one of those guys. Like they're just vets that fit. They make sense. Ben says, is he a power forward? Yes. Nick is pretty much a 4, even a small ball 5, because it's not Nick Batum anymore. It's thick Batum. Nick is not the little tiny wispy French rail that he once was. He is bulky. He's about 245 now, 250. He is not small he engulfed Brandon Ingram when he had him in that coffin corner. And I was like, God, Nick really is. Because Nick was built like BI for years. And now he's
super skinny,
bigger.
I remember when he was in Portland, like we used to talk about how like, can you lift some weights? Can you please lift some weights and get bigger here?
Because he just looks so thin. Joey says Jeff Green. Jeff Green is perfect. Another guy that makes a ton of sense for a guy that floats around a bunch. But yeah, the opportunities for free agents as far as like guys that can make an impact off the bench. If things go the way the Blazers hope, which is a guarantee, their starting lineup will be Dame, Ant, Nurk, and 2 players they add here in the offseason. Neither Hart nor Nasir Little will start next year if things go their way. And that's not a shot at either of those guys. I just think they want to utilize those guys as bench players. They want those guys to be impactful off the bench because that's that 82-game roster where we're much more impactful, and it makes it easier throughout the regular season if those guys are coming off your bench and not starting. That the depth of your roster is lifted up, and it's actual depth and not Neil Olshey depth.
I think you missed one. You said Dame, you said Ant, you said Nurk, and then Paolo Banchero. You forgot one.
Oh, right, my mistake. If they land number 1, is that who you want over Jabari?
I don't know. I'd like to, because I saw 3 Jabari games this year, admittedly, and I saw about 4 Paolos.
Mm-hmm.
And me and you talked about Paolo at one point, and I was kind of with you. Like, he wasn't. I didn't see the dog, and I saw some dog. I saw some dog at the end of the year, and I liked that. And he's 6'10". He can handle the rock. He can play make. He can get his own shot. It's not the most efficient, but he might fit in perfectly what they're doing, whereas Jabari's more polished. I think he's ready to go. But I've heard other draft pundits raise an interesting issue. Is he going to be used to not being a 1? Like, at Auburn, he was the guy, even though he had crappy guard play. Is he going to be able to go to a situation where he has to take a back seat a little bit? And how does that fit for him? So I think it's down to those 2 guys.
I think Jabari is more suited for that early in his career, where I think Paolo's going to want to go to a dumpster fire team and get as many shots up
and
as
go
he
get
can.
go get some buckets.
Go get some mellow shots up in early Denver, But again, I think that's kind of where it sits at as far as like free agents. I'll get more and more into this because the free agent stuff is going to change. It's going to be fluid depending on where the pick lands. Because if the pick lands top 3, you're going to be looking at bigs and wings. You're not, because if the pick lands top 3, they're taking a 4. Unequivocally, they are taking a 4. That is happening.
Yep.
But if the pick lands, 6, 7, 8, do they go for a wing, or do they go for a Keegan Murray, or do they trade it? And then all of a sudden, if you're trading it, does it, if you're trading it for OG Anunoby, and now you're looking for a 4 in free agency as a starter, which, like, trying to find a starting 4 in free agency is a little bit more difficult than trying to find a bench 4 in free agency. Do you slot OG as a 4 and then maybe try to find, like, all that stuff? Like, I have a list of guys that I start with, and then I hone it down as stuff starts to make more sense and, more conversations are had.
Well, I think that you're just highlighting, like, how truly difficult and unpredictable the summer could be for Joe, or whoever ends up. If it's not Joe, then whoever the hell they hire. Whatever it is, whoever it is. I think what you're just mapping out, though, is what we've kind of talked about, is like there are so many avenues still. And yes, the pick sucks to lose.
It's a big lasso. Like, you're just trying to bring it all together. And right now, man, those cats are all over the place. You're herding cats right now, and it's not easy to pull them all in at once. And I think that's the difficult part of this. Joey says, I'm not giving up our pick. Listen, if OG Anunoby's on the table for that pick, I'm going to pry it out of your cold, dead hands.
I think you have to do it. He's 24 years old.
And he's $17 million.
And he's $17 million. He's 6'7". He can guard 3 positions. I will take OG Anunoby for the 7th overall pick.
Yeah, 6 or higher. Send it out. Send it. I'll send the paperwork to the league myself. Like, it's just.
I'm sure Joe would love for you to do
I'll
that.
hand carry it to. I almost said David Stern. God, I'm old.
Well, R.I.P.
Yeah. This is from I am Heoli at BRG_Maui. Would Jerami Grant be worth a Milwaukee pick? One of our first, Keon Johnson, and maybe Brandon Williams. Yes. Well, not the additional first, but the Milwaukee first, Keon and other filler. Yes. And
there you go.
We haven't talked about this yet. What if Jerami Grant in his final year, being represented by Clutch, is like, we're not re-signing anywhere but Portland because I want to play with Dame.
It gives you some leverage.
Does a first-round pick, a young asset, and Keon Johnson and maybe one of the other kids, does that make sense for Detroit?
Oh, I think Detroit's in a position there. If that happens, Detroit's just like, okay, like we're in a full rebuild here. We got guys on rookie scale contracts.
They want more for Jerami Grant, but
sure, if
Grant's like, I'm going to go ahead and twist the arm a little bit. And here's the thing.
This is where Dame needs to be texting. Like,
exactly.
This is where the recruiting needs to be playing dividends for you, whether it's the coach or whether it's the star player. Those two guys need to be in the lab right now texting certain people. If they want that to happen, text them. Talk about this.
Here's the thing, man. If you're an organization who for almost a decade sat there and talked about how it doesn't matter because I can't get somebody to this city because this city sucks, and it's incumbent upon me and my brilliance to be able to bring players here to really round out this roster. Do you think players really want to come here? Probably not. But if you've got a coach and a GM who are like, hey, man, we think you can do something here, and I think you like we understand how it all comes together. And really, we got somebody from Twitch, Burring Wombat says, haha, sounds illegal, but I love it. Yes, tamper.
Well, doing it's not illegal.
No, I don't care. I want Chauncey and Cronin to do it too, because everybody tampers. Do you think DeMar DeRozan's sign-and-trade deal to the Lakers was consummated and then canceled in a 24-hour period? No.
According to Magic Johnson, it was a done deal.
Yes, which is crazy. How is it a done deal before free agency opens? It's a sign-and-trade that requires two organizations to agree.
It's why the NBA had to investigate Chicago. They got to deal with Lonzo Ball within 5 seconds of the free agency period opening up. And everybody's like, wait, we're really going to act like they negotiated and got that done in 5 seconds? And the NBA was like,
Blazers lose a second-round pick because they tamper. Good.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Good. It means you're trying.
Yeah. Yeah, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
Seriously. Tamper away. Here's
Wear
the
an
difference.
Altuve buzzer. I don't give a damn what you need to do,
Here's the
man.
thing, man. You went from a GM that nobody liked to and I mean that genuinely, he was not liked around the league.
No,
nobody liked the guy. Nobody wanted to deal with him. He dealt basically with the same three teams over and over and over again. Now you've got a head coach and you've got a GM that are well liked. And if I've seen a bunch of people say, well, it's amazing they like Joe Cronin because he's well liked. No shit. You know why? Because it matters. Being likable matters in those discussions. Why do you think crap coaches keep getting jobs? Because they're well liked and well respected. Why do you think the Lakers rumors are out there about Mark Jackson being their next coach? Because LeBron likes him.
Mm-hmm. And he likes Savannah.
What did we hear all season
He's made too
long?
many comments, man. He's made too many comments in those podcasts. Like, bro, we get it.
Little too thirsty, bud. Calm down.
She's beautiful. We get it, okay? The first 3 times told us that.
How many times were we told by Casey, by Quick, by Brooke, by Lamar, by Casey this year about Chauncey Billups being late to a meeting because players from other teams wanted to talk to Chauncey?
Every time, Jason said it on a radio station, he said every single building Chauncey went to, there were at least 2 guys always dapping him up to say hi because it's Chauncey Billups. And Chauncey alluded to this. Chauncey said, I'm a valuable asset. Like, this is the part, and I think it's a very valid point. Not to say that it's going to lead to X and Y coming to Portland.
But it opens a door. It gets you the meeting.
Chauncey is something the franchise has never had. Never in their history have they had former player with the amount of respect as Chauncey. Nate was great. Nate was a respected dude, but Nate, even when he got that gig, was a little old school at that point.
It wasn't until 2 years ago that he changed in Atlanta. The Sarge mentality was still very much there.
These players in this league were 5, 6, 7 years old when Chauncey Billups played basketball. Like, they watched this dude play.
Yes.
So, that matters. It's different for Portland.
And that is the one thing when they made this hire, I didn't know what the hell he was going to do coaching-wise, and I was like, he's pretty inexperienced.
I still don't know, to be honest with you.
This year was kind of a pass, but the one thing that we said over and over again is he knows players.
Yep.
Talking to everybody before he was hired when it was all back and forth, DSJ says Terry was well-liked. Terry's also 70 years old.
Well, also not Chauncey Billups.
Yeah.
Like he was a European player.
Not just that. I mean, have you ever seen the picture of Terry back in the day? Chest hair out, mustache, gold chain.
Just a fox.
Just feathered. I mean, glorious. Just truly, just beautiful stuff. Loved it. Chauncey Billups is an NBA champion and fringe Hall of Famer.
Finals MVP.
Like, it's kind of funny. If you stack his numbers, Terry Porter's numbers, and Kyle Lowry's numbers up against each other and you take the names off, you can't tell me which one's which.
Oh, I think Chauncey's gonna get in the Hall of Fame.
But it's kind of crazy. Like, those 3 guys are the same player. They have different little quirks here or there. But it kind of makes me think about like how TP has kind of been disrespected. kind of wild. I think a
Yeah.
little bit of a sideways tilt, but like this stuff matters. Like as much as the CBA and having all these picks and all that stuff, like that stuff matters. Relationships are king. The Bulls went from a team that couldn't land anybody in one of the biggest media markets in the country in a kick-ass city that NBA stars are from to, in one season, landing guys. What happened? Oh, they got a coach that isn't Jim Boylan.
Mm-hmm.
They got a GM and a president that isn't Garpax. And they brought in Mark Eversley, who is a player relations guy at Nike for decades.
If that tells you anything, that right there, you've seen multiple teams now have hired
Nico Harrison in Dallas.
Have hired player relation dudes from Nike, from shoe companies, because they understand how vital the relationship is. And we know that if your coach isn't going to make you do 20 push-ups for missing a layup in practice, you're going to benefit from that too. Shout out Jim Boylan. Still one of the dumbest stories I've ever heard in my life. He made his team do push-ups. What the fuck are we doing?
And Neil brought that guy in to help fix the defense. God damn it.
And I think it somehow got worse.
It did. They're like, no, blitz everything. But they don't have the personnel. I don't care.
We need to spin it some way. I didn't make any monumental moves.
Man, it's just... TV says Terry was the coaching equivalent of the New Balance 608. Listen, nice to have. Comfy as hell.
Stop.
Everybody respects the New Balance.
Terry's a monarch, okay? And Chauncey...
Oh, come on. He's not a monarch.
He is the number one selling shoe in Nike. Yes, he is.
Okay, fine.
Terry's a likable monarch who some people clown, but ultimately he's comfortable.
You end up in him when you're 50 years old. You end up in him. That's just how it goes.
What are you mowing the lawn in? Monarchs. What are you taking the walk around the neighborhood in? Monarchs. Like monarchs are very good shoes. Chauncey's just a Kyrie, and the Kyrie shoe is the one that's a little flashier, the one you want to play in a little bit more. Like there's that ability there for them to utilize that in some way. Again, this could not mean anything, but it's better than not having it in your back pocket.
Jaron Abelson says, at Jaron_ab, do you think an option of best of 2022 Lakers New Orleans pick top 5 protected would have been a deal breaker? I suspect no, but obviously wasn't in the room when it happened. Good for you for admitting that. Griff was under pressure to make the playoffs. Don't think Cronin appropriately mitigated downside risk. That's the most reasonable take I have seen on this.
100%.
So congratulations, Jared. Thank you for that.
I completely agree, Jared. That's really good perspective right there.
Knowing what I know about Joe Cronin from the people that I've talked to, I have a reeling suspicion that was broached. This is not a guy who's just like, I'm not going to walk through this and see what happens.
He wants the job.
That's the thing.
Why would he not try to help himself?
Yes. Why would you not try to get the most in return? And that's what I think is kind of where it's at. Joey, your question was in here. So I hear Jerami Grant is as good as done. He wants to come here. Is going to force the issue here. I've heard Milwaukee pick Keon Johnson, a second-round pick. Who are you hearing from, Joey? What's y'all's thought on getting Grant still? No matter where our pick lands, I'm not giving that up. So you're consistent and you're not giving that pick up. But as far as the idea of like Jerami Grant, like if the offseason turns into Jerami Grant, OG Anunoby, you just had the most successful offseason in Trailblazers history, probably.
I still think you need to say the Scotty year, right?
Is 34-year-old Scottie Pippen better than 24-year-old?
It got
OG.
You were a West Finals team, and then you took a step to a quarter away from.
Yeah, but I think the rest
NBA
of that team was probably a little bit better to begin with, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you could say it's the most until you see what the results are. I think it has to be result.
I would say the grade you would give it would be the best offseason grade.
It'd be pretty damn high.
It's a pole position. Let's say that.
I think if they were to in an ideal world, right? And obviously you need some things to go your way for this. If you landed on Anunoby and Grant, I don't know if there's a human being outside of somebody purposely just being a contrarian that says,
you could call that a bad summer.
I'm not excited for what this team could be.
And the only reason I throw that out there is even like this smidgen of possibility, because I don't think it's likely. before anybody thinks that I think that's the way things are going to go. I don't.
It would take an awful lot for all those.
I mean, you're talking about
the
the cosmic fuckery that took the picks away, completely reversing and going the other way for Portland.
You need to be Robert Downey. Steal the
1 in 13 million time stone. That's what you need to have you happen.
You need
here.
Cronin to grab him from Thanos and be like, "And I'm Iron Man," and you need to snap your finger and be like, "Goodbye."
But I mean, that's where you're at as far as like. But here's, if you want me to. It's been a while. Let me put this on real quick.
Oh, I lost mine in the move.
I short out my headset.
I lost mine in the move. I got to make a new one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wearing mine forward right now. But if I'm going full Illuminati here, or foil Nami, I don't know. Anyways, clutch. Guess who OG's rep by?
Clutch.
Guess who Jerami Grant's rep by?
Clutch.
Yusuf Nurkic.
Clutch.
Chauncey Billups.
Clutch. What's Dame?
Goodwin. Who? It's weird.
What's Dame?
Oh,
he's
clutch.
Clutch.
Yes.
God damn it.
Sorry. I thought you said who's Dame.
No.
Sorry. I had the headset kind of sideways there. But there also appears to be the guys Dame is linking to appears to be kind of a Goodwin Clutch alliance forming here, doesn't it?
Do you know why? Because Dame understands relationships matter.
Illuminati. Thank you, Sithafong. I had it in my head. It just was not coming out. Illuminati. Thank you. God, I was just like, why is this not coming out? Because in my brain it made sense, and I was just pooping all over it. For sure, at Forrest_sure, is pick 3 to 6, provided Jabari and Paolo are gone, plus Nas, enough to go big game hunting, i.e. Butler, AD, Pascal. Maybe?
If LeBron leaves the Lakers, I'd say yes, because I think they will fully blow it up. Butler, I'm not so sure on that one.
That would take Donovan Mitchell going to Miami.
Yeah, it would have to be like a 3-way situation. Yeah. Gobert, I don't know, because I don't know what they're thinking. Who they keep? Do they blow it up completely?
Without that Pelicans pick, I think that takes the Blazers out of the running.
I kind of tend to believe that as well. I think your best bet would be the Lakers losing LeBron. AD, maybe he stays and just doesn't care. He's like, I love LA, whatever. But
I think they'd want to ship him out and get picks, to be honest. I think they
they
want to
should.
Reset.
He can't stay healthy, so.
Yeah.
Would we want that, by the way?
AD's on the edge for me, man, because his injuries have been like.
That's what I say too. I used to be all in, and now
if he lost 25 pounds, I'd consider it.
That ain't happening, man. Come on.
When
does a guy that's perfectly skinny, like he was cut skinny, when does the guy add 30 pounds of muscle and then lose it? Like, show me who that is.
Braun, literally the only example.
Okay, you're using an alien.
I said literally the only example. The guy who was 300 pounds in Miami and cut down to 245 again. Yeah. PDX_James at James Huntley 27. Since we didn't get the Pels pick, do you anticipate that we love young players to help facilitate a Grant trade? I'm assuming Love was lump young players. And I think ultimately if that's what presents itself to Portland, I think that is still a very open door. Do I think it's likely? No. But do I think that possibility is there, particularly if Clutch and Jerami Grant apply the necessary pressures? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. William Hahn says, another broken down big guy for Portland? Why not? I.e. Anthony Davis. I mean, you're not wrong.
I know what he can be. I just don't know if he ever will be.
But
that's the tough thing.
I think this has been good. This has been cathartic. I've seen a lot. It started off with some angry, frustrated comments that they're slowly easing into, okay, I've still got my pitchfork right here. I've still got my torch right here. Which you should.
I don't think you and I are telling you to put the pitchfork down. I'm sitting here and I also have mine. But what I'm doing is I'm just playing the patience. And I'm playing to see what this lottery pick will be. And then we can converse.
When we get to August, if they don't get stuff done, folks, every summer I give it an opportunity. I always do.
Well,
And
you
then
were a fool for the last couple of years for doing
but
that.
again, I say, here are what's on the table.
Sure.
Let's see what happens. And then I evaluate it then. And I have gone into every year basically saying for the last 5 years, yeah, you screwed that up.
Yeah.
I try to find some good. They make the move for Larry Nance. I was like, a little bit of an overpay, but I like Nance as a player. Will they be able to utilize him the right way? Probably not, because they have nothing but guards. But let's see.
Right.
Stuff like that. And then it's just, that's how it goes. But we will wrap it up there. Thank you. We've said around 250 here for the last half hour. We appreciate you. We love you guys. It's good to see everybody kind of work their way back for these. Once I get Ricky O'Donnell settled in, I think we're going to go here either Thursday or Friday. I will lock that in, and we will get back to business looking ahead to the draft as it pertains to the Portland Trailblazers. The draft lottery is less than a month away, which means the combine is less than 3 weeks away.
Yep.
Because the combine leads up into the NBA draft. It will be 2 weeks will go by very quick, and all of a sudden we will be ramping into draft coverage.
Right.
And then once we kind of know where the pick lands, we will proceed on from there. Again, if you're new here, we appreciate you. We love you. I've seen a bunch of new folks on Twitch, so thanks for coming back. We appreciate you. Like, rate, review, subscribe if you're new to the show. What's it going to cover, Brandon?
I was just going to ask you very, very quickly.
Yeah, go.
Matt Damon as Sonny Vaccaro and Ben Affleck as Phil Knight. Are you in or out on that movie? Because that's happening.
You're kidding me.
It was just announced by The Hollywood Reporter. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck teaming up for the true life story of Nike sneaker man Sonny Vaccaro. Damon will play Sonny Vaccaro.
Damon's more believable as Vaccaro than Affleck as Knight by miles.
Oh, I feel like Ben can look pretty close to Phil back in the day.
Okay.
The shaggy hair, like a mustache. I don't know about the accent or how he's going to sound because you never know what.
Yeah, he's from the Northeast, man. He can't sound like he's from anywhere but the Northeast. His Batman had a Boston accent.
I'm in on the movie though. Like
no. Listen, I'm down for that.
That movie should be pretty good,
especially if it goes into the dark stuff, which it should.
Yes, I would hope it does, but we'll see who's on set.
Evan James says upcoming guest. Right now, Ricky O'Donnell's on the books. I just need to nail down what day we're going to have him. I will announce more as I work to get them locked in. We will have a ton of off-season guests, though.
And we might do some crossover stuff. We might try to get Mike on at some point, Locked On Blazers podcast, pick his brain. I know he's given a lot of scenarios that are in play here. I do appreciate a lot of people in everything me and Danny could have said today. You could have just heard and completely disagree with. And I totally get it. I'm not telling you to trust this organization fully. I understand.
Shouldn't.
No, I know. But I think the difference for me, though, is it's a different cat.
No.
And I don't know if he's good, but I know it ain't Neil.
The other guy got 10 years. I'm going to give this guy at least 10 months before I want to throw him into the fire.
That's kind of what I'm saying. And we'll reassess this at the summer. We'll have a lot of guests throughout. But I think I feel better about talking this stuff out because I largely disagree with a lot of the discourse on Twitter. And I thought I'm just going to address a lot of this on the pod. And you know what? It's good to hear that some people maybe have calmed down a little bit and the life will go on. And losing that pick may not be the end of the world.
It's not great. And I'm not telling anybody that it's not great. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Somebody, DSJ asked, watch parties coming? Yes. We took a little bit of time off. I will throw some watch parties up. And what I'm thinking about doing is actually hosting a few more public ones just for the playoffs. So we'll probably mix 2 public ones in there and the rest will be private. And then we'll probably throw a public one open for the draft lottery to get everybody involved for that. And then I am working on locating a facility for the actual NBA draft watch party, which I am not going to lock in until I know what pick the Blazers have, because if they don't have a top 4 pick, might not go on location.
Yeah, not really worth it at that point.
Because the likelihood that it gets traded goes up through the roof. So
yeah,
we appreciate you. We love you. Again, thank you. Like, rate, review, subscribe. If you're new to the show, please like the show here on YouTube. It's free. It's easy. It is all good and easy to do. I will post this up on the podcast feed. I will have some more stuff up on the podcast meeting coming here real soon. Other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of the playoff action tonight. I believe the end of the third, Memphis is beating the brakes off Minnesota, which is kind of anticipated. And Trae Young had a James Harden-like 10-plus turnover game. Mwah! Love to see it. For Brandon, I'm Danny. You can find us on social media at Jack Ramsays, at Danny Meringue, at Brandon Sprague, jackramsays@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Twitter, on IG at Jack Ramsays as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I think that's it. Other than that, we'll let you guys know when we have the next live show with Ricky O'Donnell of SB Nation, and then I will book some other guests, and we'll go from there. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Take care. Talk soon. Bye.